My name's Ken Dodd. I'm the county conservationist with the Oconto County Land and Water Conservation Department. We want to thank everyone for being here tonight and kicking off our study of Moody Lake. I'm going to show you just a few things for a few seconds and then turn it over to some of our other partners in this program. For those of you not familiar with Zoom, I'll just show you quick. If you look at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, there's a little microphone that says mute. Click on that. When you get a red line through it, that means you're muted. We ask everyone stay muted until you want to ask a question or something. That way we don't get background noise. Right next to it is a little camera that says stop video. If you put a red line through that, that just means we can't see you. You can still see us, you can hear us, everything else. They say if you have a weak internet, that'll help your internet by turning that off so you ain't running a camera at the same time. And then the other thing is you can go over a few more icons down there. You see participants 11, then you go right next to it and it says chat. You take a click on that, and you can type in the bottom and you can type questions and stuff in there and comments. Then you just hit enter and it sends it out to everyone. We'll be watching that. And if we see that there's questions in there, we'll make sure they get asked. There is going to be times to interact in the end, but we just want to make sure that, so if you feel you're going to forget one or something, just type it in there and we'll make sure and get to it. So with that, I'm going to share my screen to, let me see, get the right one here. County website. And I want to show you quickly where all this information is going to be stored through this 2-year process of the County Lake Study. So this is the Oconto County homepage. Go up to the departments up here. Click on departments, go down the bottom left-hand side, Land and Water Conservation. Click on that. That brings you to our homepage, our Land and Water Department homepage. On the left-hand side, you can see the 5 tabs there. County Waterways, Aquatic Invasive Species. That's the main one you want to go into. So you click into that. We have 4 general categories: invasive species. If you want to learn some stuff about that. Healthy Waters Cost Share Program. It's a county program we have that organizations can apply to do work on water quality and stuff around your lake. Countywide Lake Study, that's what we're talking about tonight. Then we have the County Cost Share Program. That's for individuals that if you have shoreline issues, erosion issues, you name it, we can come out and we have funding to help with it and we can give you advice on it. So the main one is the Countywide Lake Study that we're talking about tonight. So when we go into here, you see there's a whole bunch of stuff on this page, but it looks worse than it really is. If we go through these categories quick, the first one's our strategy and plan for surface water management protection. That's our countywide strategy, basically. So you, again, if you want to look around in it, go ahead. Some interesting stuff. Countywide Lake Survey. This was sent out to the general public. I think we had like 400 participants in it. Individual lake summary reports and plans. I'll click into there once quick. Here you can see these are all the ones that we are working on or have finished working with. And if you just look at the top, you can see Anderson Lake Final Lake Management Plan. That's where you're going to end up. But right underneath it is the Anderson Lake Summary report. That's what you'll have first when we get partway through. And once we get a final management plan, you'll have both on there. But if you want to just see what it's going to look like and the information that's going to be in it, obviously it's going to be detailed to your lake. You can get an idea what it's going to look like. And we go back here and you have Oconto County Lakes, all lake summary draft. That takes and compares data points from all the lakes that have been done so far. And it might be water clarity, the average water clarity in a lake, and it'll compare all the lakes together side by side in a graph. The number of plants in your lake, the chlorophyll, you name it. I mean, there's different stuff in there, so you can compare your lake to other lakes in the county, see how it ranks out. The next one is the project update. Dale Moore from UW Extension is going to talk about that in just a second here. The new topographic maps, they're doing new maps of all the lakes, the DNRs. Once they get them done, we'll have them on here that you can go in there and print them off or download them. Well, that is the recording of the Lake Study virtual meetings. If anybody that you know could not make it or wants to see this, it's going to be recorded, and they can come here and find your lake on there. It takes by next week sometime it'll be on there. I guess put it that way. but they can come and listen in on the meeting and see what it was all about. Then down below here is the individual lake surveys. And if you go down here, you can see Moody Lake. You just click on it. It's not that long. It's a 5 to 10 minute. Click the buttons, type a little bit maybe, but it's a pretty simple survey. We highly encourage everyone to take this. It helps us guide writing the plan and the data we're looking at, how you feel about the lake, good, bad, and different things you like change, how long you've been on the lake. If you live on the lake, you don't have to live on the lake to take this survey. You can be just someone that comes from 2 miles away to go out there and fish or whatever. More than one per household you can take. So if you and your wife both use the lake, both take a survey. You know, it's not limited just to one per household. So we highly encourage that, 'cause that, I mean, greatly helps us, guides us through this process and stuff. So again, this is where the majority of the stat is all going to be stored, that you can come throughout this project and find stuff. Then I am going to let Dale Moore from Unity Extension fill you in a little more on more of the details of it, I guess.
Hi, good evening. It's good to see everybody tonight. This is our first opportunity, other than the postcard, to be able to get out and meet with all of you. This is the good news is you're going to end up with a project that's going to be a lake management plan for your lake. Even better news for us is that we're going to have a lake management plan for all 60 lakes that have public access within the county. So Ken and I, as well as the DNR and others, will be able to look at our lakes that have the public access in more of a holistic approach. So if there's one issue that we're interested in tackling, we'd be able to focus in on that and know which lakes actually have that issue, rather than trying to just deal with one lake at a time and then find out that something else came along. So with that, about 6 years ago, there was a group of citizens that came together. Ken and I, we met with them, and their main emphasis was really to have the healthiest waters in Wisconsin, in Oconto County. So we thought, well, what could we do? We got over 300 lakes within the county. More than 200 of them have names, but only 60 have public access. So we were trying to figure out, with limited resources and personnel, how we would be able to tackle figuring out what the status of our lakes was to begin with, to see if there are resources that we could pull into the county. So the intent then was to focus on those lakes that have public access, the most pressure that would be on them. The next process was, well, how do we fund this? And luckily we were able to do that through the DNR. They've been supplying us with funding over these past 6 years. We've been able to then subcontract folks out of Stevens Point, and then also to work our way into work programs with people like Tammy and Chip from DNR for fish biologists, as well as lake biologists like Brendan Nordine. So anyway, that handles sort of the staffing and also the direction that we were going into. But then how do we approach this with the public? Again, 60 lakes. There was a county that attempted to do 30 lakes, all within a 2-year cycle. Ryan will mention that this is going to be a multi-year planning approach, gathering data. So, how is it that we can handle all 60 at one time? And the answer is we can't. So we have to do about 6 lakes to 9 lakes every year on a 2-year cycle to get through the process. And so unfortunately, you're going to have some time to wait before final results come in. But you you can participate through the survey, as well as volunteering on your lake and getting us feedback over this 2-year cycle. But a final document won't be prepared until all the data has been collected. So really with that is we're looking at, well, how do we keep everybody informed? What about if you're concerned about other lakes within the county as well? So with that, there is this document that I'm holding up here. I'm going to click on it. It's called on the shared screen here. It's the Oconto County Lakes Project Update. And when I click on it, you'll see the document with a date in the upper right-hand corner of being March. So that's the latest version of this. So if you forget what we're telling you, or you can't remember how to get in contact with us, this is on that document. If you forget which goals are out there or which lakes are done, it's all in this document. If you'd like to print something out and give it to a family member, this would be the document that you'd want to do. It encapsulates everything that we have, and we try to update it every 2-3 months as we go forward to keep everybody on the same page, as it were. So in this, you'll see the first paragraph up here gives just a synopsis of what we're attempting to do with the public access lakes. It also has the goal of having the healthiest waters in Wisconsin. But then at the bottom of that paragraph, you'll see this link right here. If I were to click on it, it will take you directly to that site that Ken showed you. You might ask, why did Ken go through and show me how to get through our website at the county? Well, you now know that you can do it if you had to, and if you didn't have this document, you would still have to go through the process and the steps that Ken went through. So this document is nice to have out. Go to the cheat sheet, but if you didn't have it, you have to go through the old process that Ken showed you. So anyway, that's there for you to use. Second thing that I'm highlighting here, it's in a gray. It reminds you to take that survey. Ken did say that it takes about 10-15 minutes to fill out. Any survey of the waterway and the shoreline is one thing, but to actually have the input of folks' concerns and hopes of you guys in this document is also a big help as well. So we can't really address issues that we don't know about unless you guys give us that feedback. We can only find out what's actually out there through sampling and what we observe. So please fill that out and get it to as many people that are concerned about that your lake as possible. So as we go through this this first page, you'll see that in bold is goal number 1. Reading about the goals that we have within this process, you'll have the goal and then the activity that is highlighted and what we're going to do. So if you're wondering if we're actually going to be out on the lake, you'll see the activity describes how we collect that data. In the yellow, the highlight here is all the research has been done on these past lakes. Okay, as part of this study. So if somebody is coming in late in the process, or they just bought land on Green or Ranch Lake or John Lake, they would realize that the information for shoreline survey, first woody habitat, and aquatic plant survey was all completed already for this goal number 1. Okay, so then as we have the new 6 that are coming up, we have tentative dates for July and August for each one of those activities. Okay, so when the folks from either Stevens Point or the DNR set up times with you or volunteers to be on the lake, that's going to be more set between you and them. It may not appear on there, but it's a general idea of when things are going to happen. It also gives people an idea that if a couple of months have gone by, that they could go and see, oh, it's already been collected. So in a sense, that's our attempt to get as much information out to the public, have as real time as possible on that. So then you go to the bottom of the page and you'll see what sort of outcomes are actually going to be forthcoming, okay, from that data. What's the goal, how we get it, whether we're done or not, and then what the deliverable will be. So that's the general trend as we go through this document. So again, we'll have our goal number 2 of the process, lakes that are done so far. Then when dates get determined, they'll start to fill out this document. Now, next year, we're going to have another 6 lakes on there. So under goal number 2, you'll be starting to see 12 lakes up here. So then we'll go through goal 3. You'll start to see some of the other lakes that haven't quite finished yet, have had their readings taken, their document hasn't been done. So again, deliverable outcomes, and then any additional activities, those completed documents. So trend continues, but this is to make it as forthcoming as possible. We get down to this goal and you can see, whoa, there's a lot of lakes that are appearing on here. That's because not everything has been completed yet under this goal, but there are the intentions be done. So if somebody was looking at Half Moon, we're looking at the winter of next year for their planning meetings, something that would complete their 2-year cycle. So really, that's what this document does. At the last couple of pages, it talks about the what Ken talked about on the website. So if you want to refresh your memory, just pull this out of the cupboard or wherever you might want to have it, and you remember, oh, that's on that website. I'm going to go find it. Myself and Ken, here's our information. We only put that out there instead of everybody because we're at the county, and we're basically your first contact if you would like. So that's on that sheet, as well as the short again. And then it just finishes off with some of the cover documents that are out there. So really, it's just a simple document that is what we would call a living document, so that everybody understands where we're at within the process for their 60 lakes. There have been other counties that attempted to do all the lakes at one time, and it gets some people upset because they're not aware of the planning process, or they might have put a lot of research or money into a lake management plan, and they don't want another one being conducted a year after it was completed. Okay. So when we look at selecting lakes, the 6 lakes every cycle, we look at who just had a management plan done. Let's wait the 5 years before we put them in the hopper. Otherwise, they're not going to get any benefit out of it. We already have their document. So we look at that, and then we also look at the size of the lakes, because we really don't want too many that are very large lakes. We want to give a diversity, smaller lakes with the larger lakes. So there is some thought process to us getting through the 60 lake process. So really, we're hoping that you'll utilize the document, but more importantly, you will fill out the survey as best you can. So we appreciate that. So if there aren't any questions, I will stop sharing that document, and I will turn it over to Ryan to continue the process.
Thanks, Dale. I do see a question about helping with the surveys in the chat, and we will get to that for sure. But there definitely will be opportunities to join folks in the field. My name is Ryan Haney. I'm with the Center for Watershed Science and Education at UW-Stevens Point, and where you're kind of meeting the team tonight. So we've got the various folks from the county involved, the DNR, state, and then our role here at UW-Stevens Point is to fill in with data collection. We also have a lot of volunteers collecting data. Both in the past and hopefully going on into the future. So likewise, if you're interested in collecting water samples on your lake or figuring out, learning how to monitor some of that, there's opportunities there for that. And hopefully going beyond this project even, so that you can have that service for your lake. But our role is to basically gather all the information from these various groups and everyone doing this work, and summarize the data and meet with you and facilitate this process. Let me share my screen here real quick. So you may have seen this before. Again, the goal of this project is to basically assess all the lakes in the county, and then work with the people that live in that area to develop a lake management plan for that lake. And lake management plans are a clearinghouse of information. It's designed to be a document where everything that's known about your lake exists in one document. So whether you have a sportsman's club working on your lake, maybe the DNR is doing a study, maybe there's a university doing a study. You have shoreland owners doing work on their shorelands, and you know, so there's just there's always there's stocking going on in some of these lakes. Some of these lakes are dealing with issues. Anderson obviously is dealing with milfoil these past few years and things like that. So these documents are important to have all this information in one location, so it's easy reference for whomever might be involved. And it's really best to develop these documents before you have a problem, really, so that you can develop strategies to preserve what you want to preserve and have a plan already in place for how to deal with things as they come up, as opposed to reacting to something later as it comes up. A lot of lakes don't get involved in something like this until they have milfoil or until they have something going on, and it's a lot better to be ahead of the game. So you guys are probably in good shape in terms of that, from what I know about your lake. Let me see here. And so my role in this project and our big product is this report basically here. This is another report that is available on the county website, where Ken and Dale have shown you. I also have my own little cheat sheet there on the bottom right. But this is kind of the umbrella report for the project. So this is the State of the Lakes report. A new iteration of this report comes out each year, updated with the latest group of lakes to join the process. So the report that's up there right now is for the first 4 groups of lakes, which is probably about 30 lakes altogether so far in this report. So each individual lake summary report and each individual lake management plan that's developed will essentially be an appendix to this umbrella report. And so I encourage you to get on the website and check this out. It gives a lot of context for the report and gives you more of a countywide overview of what's going on, so that you can compare and contrast the lakes with, again, like whether you're looking at types of plants that are available, maybe what's the average water clarity in various lakes, what's the phosphorus levels in various lakes countywide. So you'll learn a lot about your lake, but sometimes it's nice to understand your lake in context of all the other lakes that you might be familiar with. So a lake management plan, again, is a very comprehensive document. These having a plan in place makes your lake or your lake group more competitive for resources and for the attention, frankly, of managers, because having a plan on file shows that the people that live there have really taken a holistic, comprehensive look at their lake. And so these are all the different things that go into the lake management plan. And we'll be looking at, again, not only the aquatic plants, but what are the recreational uses on the lake? What sort of land use is going on in the watershed? Where might be various sources of contaminants or nutrients coming from, if that's even an issue, but basically to create this baseline of information so that studies in the future can begin to monitor change or see where we're going. So again, the planning process, this is this basic baseline data gathering for your lake is a 2-year-long process. These lakes are thousands of years old, so a 2-year study is really still just a snapshot in time, but it gives us something to work with. So study will begin this summer, May, June. A lot of the work will begin, and we'll be monitoring and taking samples on the lake throughout the year, through this year, through 2023, and into spring of 2024. And then in fall 2024 is when we begin to publish the reports with the results. And so unless you get involved with the project or are just curious, you may not hear much more about this until 2024 as these results come out. But again, you're welcome to hop in various aspects throughout this thing. Once we have our results, we will gather again in some sort of public forum. Before COVID, we were meeting at local town halls and things like that, and doing this in person. So we'll see where we're at in 2024. I don't know that anyone could predict that anymore. But we'll gather again in some form, and we'll go over what we found, what our conclusions are. Again, in the meeting, we'll have our various expertise, our DNR managers, the county, myself, various folks there to kind of interpret those conclusions, give you recommendations, and then work with you to develop goals and an action plan for your lake. Again, even if that's just preserving what you've got, or maybe there's something that needs fixing. Once we have a consensus on a plan, if you are familiar with Anderson, obviously they just went through this in the past couple of years, and so feel free you can look up Anderson's information, look at their reports, talk to folks over there how it went for them. But we generally don't have trouble getting sort of consensus on our plan for the lake. And then that plan goes on file with the DNR and your local municipality so that it's available for reference. And it's really designed to be a living document. So it's what we know now, what we want to do with that information, and then you reassess and update those plans as you go forward. So here's the contact information. Ken and Dale are obviously there locally. I'm up there from time to time working on some of the lakes, and any of us are available at any time. So if you see something on your lake you want us to know about, or you think of something, or what have you, we always invite comments and questions. And that's my bit. And so, yeah, does anyone have any questions or things they would like us to know about Moody Lake? I know a little bit about that. I've spent some time on Anderson now, obviously, but we'd like to hear from you and any questions you guys might have. Brenda, do you have or maybe anyone on the call, do you know, is there a citizen monitor on Moody Lake? I don't see recent data on that lake.
No, I don't believe there is one.
Okay. That's one of the ways, if you're interested, the DNR has a citizen lake monitoring network, and it's where the citizens can basically volunteer to take samples and measurements on their lake throughout the summer. The equipment is provided and the training's provided. It's really, it's not rocket science. It's pretty basic, but it's always helpful. It helps alleviate some of the workload for some of the agencies, but it's also a great way to get involved in your lake and hopefully continue that monitoring even beyond this project. So if that's something you're interested in, you can contact Brenda. And then Dale showed you that document with the dates for the different surveys. Those will be updated as we know, as we get closer and we know what those dates are. And so you can either make prior arrangements with one of us for being on that, or you can just kind of look for that date to be updated and kind of wander out. You know, we've just picked people up off their docks that wondered what we were doing before and stuff like that. So it can be formal or casual, however you like, but a couple of ways to get involved there.
We do have one question for Brenda that was in the chat, and it says, are we allowed to pull out invasive species as we come across them?
Yeah, you can pull out if there's, milfoil on the Eurasian water milfoil on the lake, or, Phragmites or something like that. Yeah, you can pull that out manually without a permit. Manually is usually raking it out or going out there and, snorkeling or scuba diving and pulling it out. Once you attach like a rake or something to a boat, then it becomes mechanical, and that's what kicks in the need for a permit. But anything manually for invasive species can be done without a permit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, obviously, it's good to know, be confident of what you're pulling, I guess. And when it comes to milfoil, things like milfoil, there's definitely techniques involved so that you're not spreading it more than you're helping.
We had another question, Ryan. Way too many weeds. Is there something going to be done with the weeds?
I guess that kind of depends on what you as a lake decide. I'm sure it's not a new discussion. I know what you're talking about because I've been to Moody Lake, so that'll be something for you to decide. when it comes to native species, there's really limited things you can do. Pretty much it's limited to clearing out around your docks and swimming areas. You generally have about a 30-foot radius from your dock or access point to clear weeds of any type, just for your access and recreation. And then if there's more general navigational issues lake-wide, there are some things that can be done, but that those things take money and resources, which can be hard for a small lake. Herbicides are not applied to native plants, so you'd be looking at some sort of mechanical means of mowing or thinning the plants. And that comes with a cost, but that's something that can be looked at and something we can definitely discuss in your plan if that's something people want to see.
For the weeds, are you talking about the ones that are under the water or the water shield, the lily pads that are on top of the water?
Yeah, that's a good point.
As a second part to that question, there's an aerator there. Is that aerator on all year or is it just on during the winter months?
As far as I know, it's just on during the winter months. We don't run it during the summer,
Okay, and that's for fish kills?
supposedly. And we've only been up here a couple of years, but we know the fellow that lives down next to the boat launch, and he says it's typically not on during the summer.
Okay,
And yeah, I would think it's fish kill. The claim has been made that there's walleye stocked in that lake on a regular basis. I'm not sure that's really true, but certainly we've not seen any caught out of it.
okay. The reason why I was asking about the aerator, is because I've noticed lakes that have an aerator, the lily pads, the water shield that's on your lake, that's what the main lily pads are, is the water shield. It really takes it tends to take off with the aerators on. So that may be, a partial cause to the lily pads on the lake. I don't know what the lake looks like under the water line because I haven't been on it. I will be this summer to the plant survey. So, once we know the species of plants, we can, kind of talk about aquatic plant management. But I mean, as Ryan said, we don't do herbicide treatments on native plants because that just kind of opens up a niche for the Eurasian water milfoil to come in and take off. There are some things you can do to make navigation around the lake a little easier, though.
I'm going to jump in here just quick. You asked before the question of the weeds on top or under the surface. The person commented the weeds on top, but they are not lily pads. If you remember that conversation.
Yeah, are they slimy underneath?
We'll
I
see.
mean,
I guess
sorry. I was just gonna say that's Moody's definitely a more eutrophic lake, so it's just gonna kind of be the nature of lake to some degree. It's kind of a and we'll talk about all this when we do the planning, but sometimes you have to. There's certain things you can do. You can nudge a lake one way or another, but a lot of times you have to learn to love the lake you have.
Brenda, they replied back, they do not know.
Okay. Yeah, we'll take a look at it when they're out there. If they're the ones that are floating on top of the, water column, those are the ones that I see when I drive past it. If you take a look, they're slimy underneath. They're one of our 4 lily pad or one of our 3 lily pad species. But if they're the ones that are submerged under the water, then they're definitely something else, and we'll take a look at them.
Ryan, we had a question. Can the tree stumps be removed and can the shoreline be cleaned up without permits?
I don't know about tree stumps. Brenda?
Tree stumps, if they're causing a big navigation issue, and that usually pertains to, you know, larger lakes where there's motorboats and they can damage a motor, then they can be removed. But if, you know, there's not a lake without, you know, motorized traffic on it, then you know, they can't be removed. But if for some reason, you know, there's some sort of an odd navigation issue, then they can be, but I can't see that being too problematic on Moody Lake. You know, I'm sure you can get a permit to do it, but of course, you know, we like them in there because they are our habitat for a lot of fish and wildlife and, you know, critters and so forth. You know, it's something that I could take a look at too, to see, you know, where that those tree stumps are, to see if they are causing an issue. For shoreline cleaning up, you can clean manually, again, a 30-foot parallel swath. And I'm talking about the shoreline in the water, below the water line. You can do a 30-foot swath parallel to your shoreline. And again, that's, you know, raking up to create a swimming area where your pier is located. So anything above the water level, like trees and stuff, that would, I think that would be Ken's department.
What about around the boat launch? Can we do a 30-foot area around that as well?
If the owners are okay with it, yes, generally a pier or something has to be located in it, but a boat launch would, you know, be fine too, to clean that 30-foot around there as well.
And they mentioned the tree stumps are in the swimming area that they're referring to.
Okay.
Does anyone know if they stacked minnows? A couple of years ago, we were out kayaking and the minnows were just, the small little fishies were just unbelievable. And we were just wondering if it was stocked with little ones at all. Anyone know?
I don't think Tammy's on here, the fish biologist, or would this be Chips? No, it'd be Tammy's. But I don't know if I've ever seen them stock bait fish in a lake. It's usually the game fish is what gets stocked. When they had someone had left a comment, I'll just read quick, so make sure it gets out there. Does I've spent my whole life in this area and have seen what Moody Lake has looked like in the past years. I also have heard conversations by people with cabins on the lake that have not been here their whole life. The weeds seem to be a problem for them, but this lake has turned green every year I have lived in the area. It will be interesting how you are going to turn a deep bog into a weedless lake. So that was just a comment. Then we had the trees. Oh, Ryan read that. The tree stumps are in a seminary. We install fish cribs. And can the lake be dredged out? So I don't know who wants to take them. Brenda, Ryan?
Yeah, I think fish cribs are something you can do. I think that does require a permit, so that would be something you would get with Tammy on. She's out of the Peshtigo DNR office. And they can assess that. There's a variety of different sort of habitat improvements you can make, fish cribs being one of them. So she can help you identify what's going to be, you know, best for specifically the lake you have or the site you're looking at. And dredging, I'll let Brenda chime in anytime, but dredging is definitely, you know, particularly with some of these lakes that have a lot of muck. That's a common comment that I hear. I have heard of very few lakes who have ever pulled that off. It's usually a pretty expensive thing to do. And if you have several feet of muck, I mean, some of these lakes have 20, 30 feet of muck in the bottom. It's hard to dredge out just one spot. It just kind of all slumps in together. Then you also have to deal with that material afterwards, which can be also be challenging. So you know, I've heard of lakes like Lake Delton down in the Dells and things like that doing dredging, but pretty rare for a small rural lake to be able to have the capacity to pull something like that off.
I mean, I can, you know, follow up with that too. We do have a manual dredging exemption, permit exemption. If you manually dredge, you know, 10 by 10 foot section, you can do that each year. You know, again, it has to be manually, so that would, you know, be going in there with a shovel or a rake and raking it out. You know, you can go 10 by 10 feet and 1 foot down manually without a permit. You know, there have been some water bodies that have dredged in the past, and it can be fairly expensive, you know, tens of thousands of dollars to hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, depending if you do, you know, get a backhoe in there or get a hydraulic dredge or two. There are permits available for it, you know, but they are pretty detailed. But you know, some lakes have pulled it off in the past.
Yeah, and then of course it goes without saying that anytime you're removing plants, whether it be at your dock or you know, your swimming area or dredging, things like that, you know, those are just open niches for invasive species, you know. So sometimes these lakes that have a very robust plant community, let's say, are better able to defend themselves against things like milfoil and things like that, which it sounds like you guys have done successfully so far, even though it's located just next door. So anytime you clear native plants, you're creating an opportunity for an invasive species, and they're much more opportunistic than the native species are. So you know, that's anytime you clear plants, you just want to be vigilant about monitoring for invasives. Anything else? Anyone have any questions? Please poke around on the county website and look at all the various things there, and feel free to give a shout out if you have any questions. And otherwise, yeah, maybe you'll see folks out there on the lake starting the summer here.
I did make a list of stuff to ask to Tammy Paoli too. I think I got our walleyes being stocked. Or minnows recently stocked, and can fish cribs be installed? Did I miss anyone else? Any other questions? I don't think I did.
Yeah. I see that aerator's been out there since the mid 90s, it looks like. So
That's my other question too.
yeah.
Thank you. I'm gonna ask her if the reason for the aerator. I'm assuming it's for oxygen levels, but some lake groups will ask about putting aerators in there to decrease the muck, and it doesn't decrease the muck. It just, you know, spreads it out. It pushes it out.
Brenda, I don't know, are you going to be working on this lake or whatever? But Dennis Dart commented that he would be interested in helping as citizen rep.
Okay, cool. Yeah, if Dennis, if you want to, like, you know, take the water quality samples, that would be great. And when we're out there, you know, I always need a helper to do the you know, plant surveys too. And that would be fun. And I gotta lock in my dates. I got a few other things that are up in the air, but within the next month, I'll really lock in my dates and, you know, let everybody know when I'm gonna be out there.
And I guess that's for you. I will take and forward Brenda your email address that I have that we sent to give you the link. So she'll have your email address that she can email you when she gets, I guess, closer.
Okay, cool.
Perfect.
Just because Dennis volunteered doesn't mean other people can't help. So,
That's right.
Yeah, we got enough room on my boat for a few people to come out there. If
Yeah,
you don't
all I
want to
have to
come
do
out
is
all day, it's fine.
all we have to do is promise a little beer at the end of the day, and I'm sure I can get all kinds of volunteers.
All right. Anything else? Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you soon enough. Hopefully we can get together in person when all this is done and go over it all. Otherwise, be in touch and have a good summer.
Thanks, guys.
thank you. Ryan,
Thank you.
do you want to start up the next meeting right away?
Sure. Yep.
Want to
Everyone.
jump on? All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you.